Hi guys, and welcome back. Let's recap what we did so far, right? We made the duck salad, right, which was mushrooms cooked au sec, dry, right? Added some parsley, onions, salt and pepper. Very simple. Once again, very delicious. We cleaned the fish. We cut the fish, got the fillets, made a fish stock. Now it's cooled off. I let that cool off, right? And then we rolled the turbans, right? You put them together, so once again, some will fail. Some fish will break open. It's just inevitable. This one looks like this one's going to break. The other ones look fine. But that happens. It's part of the idea. Class cuisine is not easy cuisine. It's expensive, obviously. You can see the amount of time spent there. So what we're going to do now is finish that off. If you camera over on here, the mise en place, I got some broccoli. I got some Brussels sprouts. I got asparagus. I got some potatoes. I got asparagus. We got all kinds of stuff to do. Extra vegetable side dishes to do with our main course. We got a nice fine strainer. Once you get anything like this, you should be very small. Is definitely the best. Once again, this is cooled off. So I'm going to pour it in just about halfway up. Which looks like about all of it there. Yeah, that's fine. And you can see in the strainer what it caught. It's hard for you to see, but just little pieces of fish, meat, and things like that. So you don't want that into our sauce. Okay. Put that on the side. Take a little white wine, once again. A little white wine. Splash that in. And I'm going to take this downstairs and put it in the refrigerator until we're ready for cooking. Okay, so actually I'll just leave it on the side for now. I'll go down later when we take a break. What I'm going to do now is get our vegetables ready, and I was sitting there tortellini potatoes. Now, you guys always confuse chateau potatoes with tournée potatoes. Tournée is the knife action of cutting. Chateau is the cooking part of it. Let me pull up the rest of the menu for today. Okay. All right, what we got here, we're doing the duck salad. We got that done. The turbans are all done. I'm chateauing the potatoes now. Buttered asparagus, Brussels sprouts, zucchini leaves, broccoli polonaise. There's a lot of vegetables we're doing today, but once again, it's a good way of covering a lot of information fairly quickly. Okay, once again, you can write this down, stop the film, write it down, and off we go. Okay. Now, once again, I told you guys in all my classes, when we're dicing, slicing, anything like that, I don't measure things. I don't think, oh, it must be 10 millimeters by 10 millimeters. No, what I'm looking for is consistency. Chateau potatoes, these are small potatoes. These are actually very hard to chateau, but once again, let me start with a new one. You look at the potato, and let me turn it this way. What I'm doing, I see two pieces that way, and you can see two pieces that way. I'm going to go two pieces that way, basically thumb size. So you cut it in half, right, and then you flatten off the top and the bottom. Now, what you have here is a severely flat spot, and you have rounded spots. Now, tournées, once again, what it is, you want a fairly round 7 to 5 sided figure. This thing has a flat spot there. That is that. I don't know if it's easy to see. You're going to have a little flat spot, but you know what? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, because once again, in my class, what I'm looking for is consistency. You take the knife, you hold it like this, you fold it up like this, and you're doing this action. Tourner means to turn. Right? Chateau is a cooking term. Chateau means castle. And what that is brown butter, parsley, salt, and pepper. And you can chateau anything besides potatoes. So what we're doing now is tourneing. And what I'm doing is doing the first cuts, making it round, keeping in mind I have this very, very flat spot here. So I'm just cutting around this way to make it even. Now, good tournée, 5 or 7 sides. In my class, same size is what's important. You'll get better at it as you get longer. Now, chateau potatoes, once again, chateau potatoes, you have a lot of waste. So once again, classical cooking is expensive because of that factor. Now I'm looking at my flat spot there. How can I make that flat spot smaller? Is cutting this side, turning it over, and cutting this side. Okay, now the flat spot is diminishing, it's getting smaller. Small cuts at this point now. Still have a little skin on here, so that's fine. I'm looking at my other one down here, because once again, we're looking at consistent sizes. So it's fine to take off the end and to cut up this way. One more pass here. There we go. Okay. Once again, they both have a flat side, which is once again acceptable. It's acceptable. If you try to get rid of this size, they're going to be the size of your pinky. They'd be too small. Once again, I don't want to fill up the garbage cans. You don't want to fill up the garbage cans. So I'm chateauing, tourneing these. I have my water going in the back. Already blanching water, getting ready for whatever I'm going to, all the other things I'm going to be doing. Once again, tourne. You know what the best thing to do is tourne mou. Radish, green radish, is very soft, easy to cut. Carrots are nice. Tourne carrots are very nice, but very hard to do. That's for sure. And I'm going to be tourneing these as we're going along. And once again, size matters. This has a pretty big flat spot on it, so I'm going to just shave a little off. Once again, I'm not that concerned about the flat spot. Okay. Now make sure you cut off the ends. Make sure the ends are flat. Because the reason that is when you're boiling, when you're simmering these, you don't boil them. You're simmering, they're going to be bouncing around. And if you left these pointed, they'll break. So once again, you want it like that. These are a little flat. They're flat that way. But you know what it is? They sit better on the plate that way. If they're perfectly round, they start rolling around. So once again, a little flat spot, actually, in practical terms, it's okay. Moving on, let me clean this off. What we're going to do is like we do all the time. We'll stop the video and I'll move on to the next item, clean up the mise en place and move on to the next one. Okay, so take a break. All right, guys. Welcome back. A little coffee break time. As you can see, it's a rainy day up in Bukhansan Mountain. That's near my home, obviously. Wonderful mountain, nice for hiking. That's one thing good about Korea, that one of the most enjoyable things to do here is hiking. You have beautiful mountains. My friend who's from Scotland he called Korea the Switzerland of Asia, which is nice. Pretty good compliment. It's pretty nice, I think, at least. Okay. I put the fish in the refrigerator. I'm sorry about that. I'm a little tired. Let's actually have another cup of coffee. Okay, I put the fish in the refrigerator. I tourneed the potatoes. I got my water going. Get that ready. Turn that up. I'm doing that here because obviously it cooks quicker. Going to add a little salt, which once again, you're blanching anything, you're going to use salt. In this case, I'm going to use a basket. Use the basket for blanching, things like that, because we got a couple of things to blanch, and there's no reason to reuse the water. Well, that's coming to a boil. What we're going to do is zucchini leaves. All right, I'm looking at this, and okay, just about there. Now, once again, with classical French cooking, there's a lot of stuff goes in the garbage can. You can see that. So you got the zucchini. Oops, down here. Okay, right. You're going to cut 1, 2, and 3, cutting out the core. The core is going to be like this. Now, this is not really garbage. This you can use for puree soups, stuffings, things like that. I just put it here for now. The potato skins, once again, in Korea, you guys don't eat skin. But at one place I worked, what they did, they just French fried these, give it to the employees. There's nothing wrong with that. Here's some of the leftover zucchini, which you can't use, not mirepoix. So as I was saying, do we have a, should we tilt that? Can we tilt that? Okay, a little tilt there, that might help. Cut, corner to cut, and then cut to cut to cut. Right? And then you end up with the little core. This was a little fatter, but that's okay. Now what you do is basically, it's the same thing like a tornado. You're going to cut and make a leaf shape. But it doesn't have to be perfect. It just, once again, no leaves are perfect. That's for sure. Trim it off there. And you see, I did a few ahead of time just so I'm not spending the whole time doing it. What you do is you hold the knife. This is a big knife, and be careful in holding it. Okay, whoops, let me get over here. Hold it like a pen. The small knife is better. What you do is you cut down, you turn, and you cut back up. This so you don't lose your space where you were at. Let me make that a little larger. And then you come out, turn, cut, remove. Oops, my water's boiling. I'm going to drop my potatoes in. Cut, turn, cut again, pull out, cut, turn, pull out, cut, turn, out. And pull out. All right. It takes a little time, but once again, depending on what kind of restaurant you have, if you have a 5-star restaurant, garnishing vegetables is very, very important. These are fine as is. I've used these, once again, in my cooking career as leaves, or just tornade, which we're going to lightly blanch and then saute. Even like this is fine, especially with a tornade potato. It looks nice. This one's a little thick. Now to a simmer. The reason why you simmer potatoes, it's actually a key point on it, because if you boil a potato, it's round, it's large, right? If you boil it, the outside gets cooked and the inside's still hard, and they're bouncing around, hitting each other, basically making a mess out of the thing. So once again, you bring it to a boil for sanitary reasons, grisang, sanitary, and then the second is to finish off cooking at a nice light simmer. I should put it over here. Maybe I will. Let that warm up a bit before I bring it over. Well, that's going on. Ready? Down, turn, come up, and cut thin. That's a big one. Turn, and peel up. Looks like a good simmer. Focus on the pot. That's what a good simmer looks like. It sounds simple, but it sounds like, oh, it's easy, but it's really not, especially with equipment you're not familiar with. And in our kitchens, our ovens are very, very hot. Our stoves are very, very hot. So once again, you have to be careful about that. Salting the water, first of all, adds flavor, especially with green vegetables. It keeps things nice, bright green. Okay, I think that's enough zucchini leaves for today. Right. Once again, we can deal with these later, that's for sure. I'm about to do more mise en place. Okay, let's see. Let's go to Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts, once again, one of my favorites. Not necessarily one of yours, that's for sure. But I don't know why, because they're little baby cabbages. They're wonderful. Brussels is the capital of Belgium, where the World Bank is, and the World Court, WHO. Brussels is an important place, that's for sure. You take the ends, you cut off the brown ends, obviously. Not obviously, but you should. And then what you do is you score the centers. It gets down to that much. That much. That's to help cook. The leaves, the outer part leaves will cook very quickly. It's the inner part core that's hard. Peel off any ugly or brown ones. This is actually very nice. There's nothing wrong with that one at all. This is a little smaller one. When you're picking Brussels sprouts too, they should be, these are a little long. They're not really mature yet. They should turn round, like cabbage. And they're all uneven sizes, so cooking's going to be a little uneven with these. No choice. The local market has what they have, and I can't really, you can't send it back, that's for sure. So, again, X. Potatoes stop simmering. You see, they stop simmering, so they'll come back. They'll come back. Now, how long does it take to cook potatoes? It depends how thick they are, and how much boiling you have going on. There we go. We're coming back to a simmer. I'm just peeling off any of these yellow ones. It's not very nice Brussels sprouts, but I like them, and they're nice when they're prepared simple. A lot of restaurants really just steam these and roll them in butter, which what we're going to do. We'll blanch them and roll them in butter. They take a while to cook because of being in the cabbage family. Now I'm looking at my potatoes. Let's focus on the potatoes. All right, I'm going to take the knife. I'm going to put it into a potato, and if you can, ooh, they're almost done. If you can pick it up out of the water, it means they're not ready, right? But they're slipping off, so they're almost done. I'm having a little hard time controlling the heat on this. Well, that's going on. I have the fish in the refrigerator. That once again, cooking time's 10 minutes in a hot oven. That's for sure. So I'm not worried about that. I just want to get all my mise en place ready for dinner because my PD's getting hungry. That's for sure. Camera up. You know, my PD's getting pretty hungry. And we want to get this going. So, and I'm sure you guys are hungry too. Okay, so what we're going to do is just going to take a break and just continue on with the mise en place. And then we'll come back when we get close to service time, okay? Thank you very much. Okay, I finished cleaning these. The potatoes are cooked. I took them out and shocked them. Remember the term shock? To shock, to cool them off. Because we don't need them just yet. I'm going to let them now just cool off a bit. Now, we're talking about cooking times, right? These two are going to cook a lot longer than, let's say, these two, right? I mean that. And then you got these little mini ones here, right? Now you can, which I'm going to do at this point here, only because I can. Now, if I was in a restaurant or a hotel, something like that, you would separate the large ones, medium ones, and small ones. You have a case of these. You're going to have a case of Brussels sprouts, maybe 300-400 pieces of them. So as you're cleaning them, you throw the big ones, small ones. You separate them that way. Don't put them all together because it makes the chef crazy. Because obviously, this and this are two different cooking times. This is going to cook really quick, and this is going to, so this would be mush, and this would be still undercooked. So be smart. When you get a job in a hotel and you start cleaning things like that, you start thinking about cooking times. That's why I say the potatoes, right? I don't want pretty. I want even size. Large dice, small dice, even. I don't want pretty. I don't want perfect. I want even cooking times. So here we have the luxury of putting the big ones in first, using the same potato water, by the way. Potatoes first. Medium ones, these are kind of medium ones. These are nice medium-sized ones. Let me let that get going. I'm going to leave the small ones for the end. Okay, I'm actually going to let that go a little longer. What I'm going to do is now take the potatoes, the water's cooled them off. And let them air dry. They're still a little warm. They're still a little warm, but then they stop cooking. What I want to do is now let the water evaporate off because we're going to cook them in a pan. And so if they're wet, they're going to fry, they're going to pop and sizzle. Mediums. These bad boys, these are going to go right at the end. And we're going to do the same thing we did with the potatoes. We're going to shock them. We're going to shock them in cold water to make sure that we stop the cooking process. While that's going on, I'm going to take my broccoli. All right. What you have is the stems up here, and you have the main stem, and then you have the little branches. So you cut up as high as you can, like that. Now this is another thing you could tornade. These are actually very nice tornadoes. So once again, these are not garbage. They're good for soups. You have to peel them for soup anyway. But it's a good practice for you guys. I use a lot at home, the broccoli stems for making like Chinese food. Stir fry. It's very nice that way. I'm going to hide one there. It's going to simmer. Get the woody parts off. And it's not a bad tornado. For that, do I have a garbage can? To tell Brussels sprouts when they're done, there's two ways of doing it. Let me get a strainer here. Right. Once again, what the best thing to do is pull out a medium size or a large one and just give it a squeeze. You can feel that way. The second way, too, is that the split starts opening up a little. Here's one that's a good example. Now, they're hot, so be careful. Did you see how it's opening up? Ooh. So that's good, but squeezing is the best way of doing it. So while they're cooking, once again, multitasking. Doing several things at once is very important to do in a restaurant. Now what you do is you physically just break this off. Don't cut it off. And a lot of students say, oh, why? Because if you cut, let's say this is an example, is cut it like this, that's what's going to happen. You're going to end up with a lot of this and little of that. So breaking it is the best way to do it. You get to an end. This is edible. Don't worry about that. You can take the knife and just cut it this way to help break off these ends. Okay. Now some restaurants, nice restaurants, once again, you take them and you cut this to a point. I don't find it necessary, but once again, if it's ugly, you want to trim it up. Some of these are going to be pretty big. like something like this. Yeah, cut that down. Make it look a little nicer. Don't cut it too small, unless the recipe calls for florets. Soups, things like that, you cut half the size. We're going to be doing bolognese on this, which you'll see later when I make it. Something like this, that's ugly. We don't want that either. So once again, cutting it straight down, you end up with a lot of waste, and you really don't want to do that. I'm sure these guys are going to be done now. Yeah, not quite. Not quite. This will happen. Stray leaves will fall off. Now I'm going to add the small ones in, because they'll cook really quick. They cook crazily quick. So we got this. We're going to blanch, and blanch, and then we'll do the bolognese, which I need to chop up some onions. Got breadcrumbs, egg yolks, egg whites, and I'm gonna chop some onions, which the recipe called for shallots. So, okay, we're gonna stop now while I get all my mise en place ready and let these cook. Okay, see you in a few minutes.